What if Anakin and Obi-Wan both went with Ahsoka to fight Maul on Mandalore at the end of the Clone Wars TV series? This of course bleeds right into Revenge of the Sith, changing the events of who has to rescue the Chancellor, and a lot more that, domino effect. So let's get right into it. Ahsoka premieres in a couple days. That's so cool. I can't wait. Alright, let's get into today's fan fiction. Anakin and Obi-Wan stood across the data table from Ahsoka and Bo-Katan. The two Jedi just heard the call for help on Mandalore to defeat Maul and his band of Mandalorians, and Obi-Wan said that he had to ask the Council. He was about to do just that when Bo said that she thought Satine meant something to him. Obi-Wan stopped in his tracks. He almost felt a surge of anger at Bo for using Satine's name like this. Anakin put a hand on his shoulder, clearly feeling Obi-Wan's frustration, and he said they should do this together. They were without orders right now. They should go to Mandalore, defeat Maul, once and for all, take an obstacle out of the way. Obi-Wan hesitated, but ultimately agreed. They didn't have much time. If they were going to do this, they had to go now. So he and Anakin organized the troops to prepare for a jump to hyperspace. They would take the 501st and take Maul by surprise, and Obi-Wan tried to contact the Council, but no one picked up the transmission. This was not too rare during wartime. They must all be doing something. So they took off for Mandalore, and while in hyperspace, an emergency transmission was sent to Obi-Wan and Anakin. It was from Grand Master Yoda. Coruscant was under attack, and the Chancellor had been kidnapped. Yoda asked if Anakin and Obi-Wan were available to rescue him, but Obi-Wan said they were en route to Mandalore to defeat Maul. Yoda looked to the ground, disappointed that the Jedi were not alerted of this, but said that there was no time for arguing. Yoda then said that he and Mace Windu would rescue the Chancellor. He told Obi-Wan to arrest Maul. He could have vital information on the whereabouts of Darth Sidious, and Yoda ended the call to go rescue Chancellor Palpatine. Obi-Wan went and informed Anakin and Ahsoka about the news. Anakin was much more conflicted about this current mission, but knew that it was unlikely they could ever get to Coruscant in time. He hoped Yoda and Windu were up to the task. Above Coruscant, Yoda and Windu flew through the Separatist and Republic ships, aiming for the invisible hand holding Palpatine. Alongside them was Master Saesee Tiin, one of the greatest Jedi pilots in the galaxy, perhaps only behind Anakin Skywalker. His skill in a Jedi fighter was hard to comprehend as he guided Yoda and Windu to the Separatist ship. He cleared a path, and the two great Jedi Masters used his help to get inside the hangar of the invisible hand. Darth Sidious and Count Dooku stood together aboard the ship, and they could feel Yoda and Windu arrive. This was not at all what they wanted. It was supposed to be Skywalker and Kenobi. What could possibly have kept them away from Coruscant? With a snarl, Sidious told Dooku to prepare for a fight. They would catch the Jedi off guard. Today, they would die. Skywalker would turn another day. And on Mandalore, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka made their way to the landing platform through blaster fire as the Mandalorians loyal to Maul tried to shoot them down. And upon landing, the three Jedi moved with Bo-Katan, her Mandalorian resistance troops, and the 501st Legion to quickly move through the city. This was an all-out siege, and Maul was nowhere to be found as the Republic took checkpoint after checkpoint, causing the Mandalorians loyal to Maul to retreat to the Undercity. In no time, the Mandalorian resistance made their way into the palace to force Prime Minister Almec to surrender. Still no Maul, but the three Jedi working together were able to do this very quickly, and soon after getting to the Prime Minister, Rex called the Jedi and alerted them that Maul's Mandalorians were retreating to the lower city. It could be a trap, all three of them agreed, but their next move? Spring the trap. Moving into the lower city, tracking the retreating Mandalorians, the three Jedi eventually ended up alone in the center of the underground pipes. Out in the open, surrounded by many openings to the pipe system. As soon as they got here, Mandalorians loyal to Maul surrounded them from every opening. The three of them seemed to be trapped, and then the metal sound of Maul walking through the pipes was heard. A lightsaber ignition lit up one of the pipes red, and then they finally saw Maul. He looked at the Jedi and smiled. He wanted Skywalker, maybe Kenobi, but both of them here, plus the young Ahsoka Tano? Well, this was just perfect. They would die here and now, and Darth Sidious would see his plans for his new apprentice fail. He looked to the 15 Mandalorians surrounding them on his side, here and now, and simply ordered them to kill the Jedi. And they complied, firing upon the Jedi with all they had. From where Maul was standing, smoke quickly filled the air, and he could no longer see the Jedi. He looked to his 15 Mandalorians, and he became quickly alarmed. He watched as one by one, they began falling to their own deflected blaster fire. Through the smoke, Maul heard screams, not from Jedi, but from his own troopers. The blaster fire began to lessen, to blink out as Mandalorians fell, and Maul ordered Gar Saxon to fire a missile. This was dangerous in such a small space, but worth the try at this point. Saxon fired the missile, and Maul covered his face, but the missile never went off. The blaster fire had ceased completely, and Maul looked down. A split second later, the missile flew back at him through the smoke, and Maul dove out of the tunnel as it crashed right into Gar Saxon. Maul was dizzy. His vision was blurred. He could barely hear anything but a loud ringing. And when the smoke began to clear, the blue blades of the Jedi were in his face. They'd killed all of the Mandalorians he brought with, and now he was done for. He could not go to prison or die. He just couldn't. He wouldn't. But he had one trick up his sleeve. He knew the identity of Darth Sidious. So as he was lifted up to be arrested, he told the Jedi that he knew who Darth Sidious was, and his true goal was to defeat him, ruin his plans. Then he looked to Anakin and said that's why he tried to kill him, because Anakin was groomed for his role as Sidious's new apprentice for many years. Confused and angry, Anakin wanted to kill Maul right here. What game was he playing? And Obi-Wan felt dizzy, like a revelation years in the making had just clicked for him. Maul said that Anakin was groomed for his role. Dooku told him that the Republic was under control of the Sith. Obi-Wan could not believe it, but to himself almost, he muttered, "Palpatine." Maul nodded his head. Ahsoka could see he was telling the truth, and Anakin was in denial, saying that this was impossible, saying Palpatine is a mentor and a friend. And Obi-Wan said that is exactly right. There's a reason he's always had a special relationship with Anakin. And then Obi-Wan remembered. Yoda and Windu were aboard the Invisible Hand to rescue Palpatine, to rescue Sidious. Obi-Wan tried immediately to contact them, but got nothing back. This was a dire moment for the Jedi. On the Invisible Hand, Yoda and Windu made their way to the room, with Palpatine strapped onto the chair. Palpatine put on his best face of helplessness, but before the Jedi showed up, he had gone into a state of Sith meditation. How could he spin this in his favor? There was always a way, and perhaps killing the two top Jedi was as good a beginning as Anakin's path to his side. He felt the lightsaber that Dooku gave him inside of his sleeve. Today would mark the beginning of the end for the Jedi. Windu and Yoda got in front of him to release him, and then the two Jedi had to turn their backs as Dooku entered the room. Dooku jumped down and asked the Jedi to surrender, and it was time for Palpatine to make his move. As Windu and Yoda were about to walk towards Dooku to confront him, he used the Force to free himself of his restraints. Windu turned after hearing the sound of the restraints releasing, and turned right into an ignited red blade, going right through his chest. The last thing Windu ever saw was the leader of the Republic that he had given everything for smile as he pulled the lightsaber up and through the Jedi Master. Yoda leapt at Sidious, but was pushed back to the wall. Now slowly getting up, he ignited his green lightsaber, preparing for battle. Everything he thought about the Republic crumbled in front of him. Sidious and Dooku stood side by side with their red blades, and Yoda jumped at them. This would be his final battle. He flew at Sidious's head, spinning and deflecting strikes from both of the Sith as he jumped around the room, going deep into his own power. The battle would last a while, with Yoda understanding how dire this situation is, but he never really stood a chance versus both Sith. He was able to see an opening, jumping in and slashing Dooku across the arm, but the move would cost him. Sidious slashed across his back, and Yoda fell to the ground. He looked up to see both Sith blast lightning at him. Yoda blocked it with the Force, trying desperately to hold off the lightning, but the combined power was too much. It broke through him, then burned through Yoda, and he died along with Windu right on this ship. Dooku, exhausted, put his lightsaber away and mourned a moment for his old Jedi Master. But he also noted that Sidious had not put away his lightsaber yet. Then he heard his Sith Master say, "Your sacrifice will be remembered," and Sidious cut him down before Dooku had a chance to try anything. He would blame the Jedi for all of this. His original plans were only missing Anakin Skywalker. In due time, he told himself, as he used the Force to move extremely quickly to an escape pod, he would win. He would say that Dooku teamed with Yoda and Windu, that they were working together to destroy him, to destroy the Republic, and the clones had gotten here just in time to save helpless old Palpatine. This would work. His plan would never fail. Getting into the escape pod, he took off, contacting clone support for a pickup, and he was picked up without any delay. He was the Supreme Chancellor after all. Back on Mandalore, the siege was in full force. Bo-Katan and Rex were leading their groups, and Mandalore was being retaken. But on the other side of things, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Maul were taking off into hyperspace for Coruscant. Anakin had come around on the idea after fighting through his own denial. It made sense. Too much sense. Maul had no reason to lie. Palpatine, Sidious, was playing both sides. He'd put him in danger. He'd kept him away from his wife for years. And now he would pay. The three Jedi were choosing not to kill or arrest Maul, at least for now. He could help. They had the same goal, destroy the Sith, and after that they will figure things out with Maul. The four of them blasted out of hyperspace, making their way into Coruscant. The battle above Coruscant was over, and it was reported that Palpatine had been returned safely to Coruscant. And Maul hated the Jedi. He hated Kenobi with every part of himself, but this was his best chance to defeat Sidious. Kenobi could die when it was all over. In his office, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine was preparing to make an announcement to the HoloNet to the entire galaxy. He was going to say that Dooku was working with the Jedi, and once he was captured, the Jedi boarded and attempted to kill him, with Dooku by their side, but the clones had arrived just in time to kill the three traitors, and the Republic would believe it. They had grown sour on the Jedi Order. Smiling as his plan came into place, Sidious prepared to click record when he felt something. Looking to the door, he saw Anakin Skywalker, and he had a darkness about him, but not a darkness toward the Jedi any longer. No, this darkness was aimed at him. Palpatine watched as Anakin ignited his lightsaber, and from behind him emerged three others, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and his former apprentice, Maul. They all ignited their lightsabers, and Anakin said that this would be his end, and his time of making the galaxy suffer for his own gain was over. Sidious was beyond angry. Maul. It was always Maul. He survived the fall on Naboo, survived captivity from Sidious himself, and he revealed everything to Anakin. His former apprentice, stooping to the lowest levels just to bring him down. The treachery of the Sith. And Anakin surged forward with his blue lightsaber ablaze. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka followed, with Maul joining the Jedi against their common enemy. The room erupted into chaos as lightsabers clashed with power. Sidious met their assault with malevolent evil. His red lightsaber moved like a snake. It struck out with precision, deadly intent, going to kill them all. The fight had each combatant pushing themselves to their very limit. Sidious threw lightning in every direction, sending all four of them backwards for a moment of recovery. Then Anakin, his eyes aflame with anger at Sidious's betrayal, engaged the Dark Lord directly. Their battle was a clash of wills as much as blades, with Anakin's raw power countering Sidious's dark side mastery. Maul watched Anakin engage Sidious, then looked to Obi-Wan. He could trust Anakin to finish that job. Right now, he could no longer push his hatred for Obi-Wan away. This was the perfect opportunity. He pretended to move for Sidious, then spun and swung directly for Obi-Wan, and he would have killed him if not for the two blue blades that got in his way. Ahsoka locked eyes with Maul, and she said she was just waiting for him to do that. Maul backed away now, looked as Anakin had Sidious backing up, and embraced this new battle. He would kill Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka charged at Maul, fighting together with harmony. Their connection throughout the Clone Wars was helping to allow them to anticipate each other's moves. And Darth Maul dueled with a fierce intensity. Years of waiting. This was what he lived for. He sought vengeance against the Jedi, against Sidious, and today he would be the only one still standing in the end. He leapt and spun, engaging both Obi-Wan and Ahsoka simultaneously. As the fight raged on, the room's decor became collateral damage. Holographic statues, furniture shattered in the wake of the combat, the balance of power shifting constantly, with neither side gaining a decisive advantage. Sidious was now beating Anakin, backing him up to the shattered window. Anakin could never beat him without the dark side. He was afraid of himself, afraid of what he could become if he used the dark side. So Sidious coaxed him into it. Perhaps Anakin could still be turned if he just felt his own power. Sidious said that he must use his anger, use his hatred. This would be their first lesson as master and apprentice. And Anakin decided to listen to what Sidious was saying. And as he did, a new level of power seemed to be unlocked. Sidious had miscalculated. He just fully unlocked the Chosen One. Anakin screamed at him, using his fury, his rage, his power to overwhelm Sidious. The Dark Lord was on the defensive now, trying to find an opening to disarm Anakin, but it was getting more impossible by the second. They clashed lightsabers, Anakin now backing him up to the window, and he saw his own opening. He cut Sidious across the knee, and he fell down. Anakin, giving in to his anger, swung as hard as he could at Sidious, again and again, and Sidious was holding his lightsaber up with just one hand, trying to block the strikes desperately. Anakin swung and swung until he knocked the lightsaber aside and cut off the hand of Sidious. It tumbled to the ground below, and the Dark Lord looked up at Anakin with fear. There was a fire deep within Anakin's eyes, one that had been hidden away for years. And Sidious turned from fear to malice. He began to laugh as he understood now that he brought the Chosen One to the dark side, but it would cost his own life. So be it, he thought, and he coaxed Anakin into striking him down, giving in to his hatred, fulfilling his destiny, and taking his own place as leader of the Sith. Anakin looked to his hand, the same one he had cut off by Dooku. He just did the same thing to Sidious. Anakin barely recognized who he was right now. Was this his destiny? To cut down the Sith Lord? Give in to the dark side? No. He deignited his lightsaber and threw it across the room. He told Sidious he would never join the dark side. He couldn't. Sidious could not believe it, and he used his one remaining hand to blast Anakin with lightning. He wasn't dead yet. In the other fight, Maul was losing to Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. Their combined might had him backed up against the wall. He continued fighting though, clashing lightsabers as quick as he could, when all three stopped for a moment as they heard Anakin scream, lightning engulfing him. Maul looked to Obi-Wan and saw another opening, then looked to Sidious, and Maul made a choice. Closing his eyes, he threw his lightsaber as fast as he could. Sidious was blasting Anakin. His failure to turn would cost him his life, and Sidious turned to the other fight which had stopped, and the last thing he ever saw was the double red blade of Maul spinning at his face. And then two halves of Sidious fell through the window into the Coruscant night. After all these years, Maul killed Sidious, and he put up no resistance as the three Jedi arrested him. He had broken out of prisons before. He had won this day. And the Jedi Order would go on to survive, even without Grandmaster Yoda and Master Windu. After Sidious and Dooku were killed, the Separatists crumbled under the leadership of General Grievous. Clones quickly overran the Separatists, and Grievous was killed by a group of Jedi Masters Plo Koon, Kit Fisto, Saesee Tiin, and Agen Kolar. Ahsoka would return to the Order to help turn it into something better, and was granted Jedi Knighthood. In turn, Anakin was made a Master, and soon put on the Jedi Council under Grandmaster Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Republic was concerned after the loss of Palpatine, and the Jedi did something that they thought necessary for the safety of the Republic and its people. They told the truth, from a certain point of view. It was told that Dooku, Yoda, and Windu were killed in action, and then Sith renegade Maul had infiltrated the Republic and killed Palpatine. He was then arrested. It was the truth, minus a few details. The Republic was not ready for it all quite yet. And Padme finally got to see Anakin again after it all. She revealed that she was pregnant, and in time, Anakin would reveal this truth to the Jedi, so Luke and Leia could become the pride of the Jedi Order. And folks, that's where our story ends today. Let me know what you thought of it. I do hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching Ahsoka in just a couple days. Folks, thanks a ton, and I'll see you in the next video.